But college, if it exists, should be a place where a small percentage of the population, super smart people who are actually at 18 really interested in deeper thinking and these important things, those people, the people who are going to be doctors, the people who are going to be engineers, go and have specified training for those things and they learn a lot or whatever. But the idea that college is something that everybody should go to, like everyone should go to, that whole thing is a fucking scam, man. And it's a scam that needs to fucking end. And it would have ended a long time ago if it wasn't a government program, if it wasn't completely propped up by the government. Fuck college, man. I think the whole thing's stupid. All of school, for that matter. I've gotten into it before. The whole history of school, right? And this is the reality that nobody, shockingly, no one fucking knows this because they're kind of incentivized not to teach you this in school. But school was invented by the fucking Prussians, the precursors to the Nazis. And it was designed to make a more obedient populace because they had a big problem where their fucking soldiers wouldn't fight for them. These soldiers wouldn't gladly sacrifice themselves to the state, and they would run away when they got on the battlefield or just piss themselves and fucking die. Because,
Because it's cold? So once you pissed yourself, your dick would freeze?
I think it gets warm for a second and then really, really cold.
You have that one moment you're like, that was a great idea. Now I'm all warm. And then you're like,
this backfired big time. But it was Horace Mann.
Then that's what you need school to at least learn that if you piss yourself on the battlefield, you're going to freeze your dick off.
Well, that might be the one thing Prussian school was good for. But Horace Mann knew this. He borrowed the Prussian model and brought it to the United States of America. And Horace Mann, the guy who's known as the godfather or grandfather of modern education, this was what our system was designed to do. And they have you, the government, which everybody, it's become, of course, like everything else, it's a fucking religion. The idea that you'd be against public school, even though objectively everybody knows private schools are better. Like, nobody really argues that the quality of private schools in America aren't better than the quality of public schools. But it's unfair, But the idea that the government has you from kindergarten through 12th grade, and by the time they're done with you, you still need another 4 years in this other government program of college. Like, they have you for all this time, and they're so, and look, man, how do you even deny that people that are dumber, nobody's even getting smarter for all this shit, for all the fucking people who have, for all the increases in the percentage of the population that goes to college, are we like a smarter society than we were 30, 40 years ago? Are we a smarter country than we were before the creation of the Department of Education? Absolutely not. It does nothing, and it gets more and more centralized. The government gets more and more involved. And I'll tell you, this is, when you start looking at it this way, the whole thing starts to make a lot more sense. So if you look at schools as propaganda institutions, right? Like this is the thing, even when there's all these fucking, when there's like school shootings in high schools, there's like every issue gets discussed except the most important one. So every issue, it's like gun control, the guns, and then you can have real ferocious debate on both sides of that, right? Like one group will be like, we need to ban assault weapons, or we need to ban guns altogether, or whatever. We need the Australian model, or we need a handgun ban, or we need an AR-15 needs to be banned, whatever. The other side will go, no, that gun control won't do anything, and we actually should arm the school teachers, and we should have more guns and more police presence, or blah, 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 all types of debate on that issue. And obviously I am for complete gun rights, and that's my take on that debate. Then there'll be, people will debate the mental health issue, or they'll debate, whatever, like the parents, were the signs there? Is it the drugs? Is it all this? But the one issue that never really gets brought up is, what about school to begin with? Maybe if this fucking kid wasn't forced into this fucking prison, he would have left school a long time ago, and he wouldn't have been shooting it up. Maybe this kid didn't fit in with any of these other kids, and he didn't want to go to school. And maybe we shouldn't force him to. Maybe this whole system isn't helping anything. Do you know how many geniuses there are who never had formal school training? Like, the Prussian model isn't that old. I think it's the early 19th century that it comes in. Okay. So before that, there were geniuses before that. I mean, I know it's like a different world and it's the pre-industrialized world and shit, but there were geniuses who straight up didn't go to school and they didn't have the internet. We now have the internet. We have everything you fucking need. And anyway, so there's the whole school system there. And then really think about for a second the enormous propaganda powers that college has. I mean, when you look at some of those polls, right? The polls that talk about young people's view of socialism and how popular it is. And it's really fucking creepy. That shit's really creepy. But like socialism is very popular amongst young people. I've seen some polls where it's like 60% of like people under 22 have a favorable view of socialism. If you go to your average college campus and you say I'm a socialist versus you say I'm an unapologetic capitalist, you will be met with much more hostility for being a capitalist than a socialist. That's just a fact. The socialists are the good guys. The capitalists are the bad guys. Now, what do you think the university's roles are in that? They're the main driver of that propaganda bullshit. This is what it is. It's like, this is, if you actually know anything about fucking history, the idea of thinking that the socialists are the good guys and the capitalists are the bad guys is insane. Insane. One ideology is responsible for 100 million deaths. Like the worst governments in modern history were all socialists. And by the way, those fucking fascists were just another form. The National Socialists are just another form of socialism. That being said, which by the way, I don't know. Maybe the next will be the eco-fascists. So anyway, that's probably just another form of socialism. It sounds a lot like it. But there's the universities are a major driving force in this. They're a major driving force in all of the fucking like just cultural nonsense that we have to deal with.